on the Jeffrey Epstein list and its release. Release the list, JD Vance tells Theo Vaughn as they both cackle.
Everybody in politics has a vice that's much worse than alcoholism, is the way that I put it. But we
release the list.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
So this was JD Vance before becoming the vice president of the United States. This is on the campaign trail. A lot of people saw this and said, wow, this really aligns with things that JD Vance has told us for a long time, like these posts from 2021. What possible interest would the U.S. government have in keeping the Epstein clients secret? This is in response to Jack Posobiec noting that the Ghislaine Maxwell lawyers have made a deal that her little black book of contacts and clients never be made public. Would you look at that? JD Vance followed up with this by saying, if you're a journalist and you're not asking questions about this case, you should be ashamed of yourself. What purpose do you even serve? I'm sure there's a middle-class teenager somewhere who could use some harassing right now, but maybe try to do your job once in a while. And JD Vance followed that up by talking about this article. I think about this column once a month. Here we go. This is the meat and potatoes straight from JD Vance. This post is from 2021, September. Remember when we learned that our wealthiest and most powerful people were connected to a guy who ran a literal child sex trafficking ring? And then that guy died mysteriously in jail? And now we just don't talk about it. JD Vance summing it up quite nicely there. The link to the article is right here. Jeffrey Epstein case is why people believe in Pizzagate. It's a great article. And it just breaks down that because the government has worked so hard on covering up for Jeffrey Epstein, this is why people believe that the Satanists in our government are unlimited in their capacity to engage in and cover up evil. It's a great article. Go ahead and read it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, JD Vance, for the first time since the Epstein saga sort of erupted onto the national stage, which I think is obviously a very important question and something that we need to get to the very heart of, but is very unfair to cloud and to color the Trump administration with, given the fact that it was all the other administrations that covered up the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein. But hey, listen, let's let the vice president speak. Because, you know, he's not on record about this. He hasn't talked about it, even though he has the strongest statements of anybody in the administration about it. And so I really want to hear what JD says here. This just happened. An AP reporter says, yo, you're covering up for predators. JD Vance goes berserker mode. Here we go.
Hi, Mr. Vice President. Julie Carr-Smythe from the Associated Press. I guess I'm going to be that person. There are some protesters outside accusing the GOP of protecting pedophiles, and we're wondering what you think are the reasons the U.S. government should shield the client list of Epstein from the public, and what you have to say about any relevance to that here today.
Well, let me say just a couple of things. First of all, the president has been very clear. We're not shielding anything. The president has directed the attorney general to release all credible information and, frankly, to go and find additional credible information related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. He's been incredibly transparent about that stuff, but some of that stuff takes time. You've got to assemble that stuff. You've got to compile that stuff. You've got to redact some victims' names so that you protect the victims. But the president has been very clear. He wants full transparency. He's asked that from the attorney general, and I know, because I talk to her all the time, the attorney general is hard at work on that issue right now. But I think I got to make an observation that there's an interesting thing about this case that the American media seems to totally ignore. For 4 years, under Joe Biden's Department of Justice, the media didn't give a damn about the Epstein files or about the Epstein case. For literally 20 years, the story about this scumbag, and he is a scumbag pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, he's dead now, but for 20 years, you had Obama and George W. Bush's Department of Justice go easy on this guy. They didn't fully investigate the case. They didn't show any curiosity about the case. And now Donald J. Trump is asking his Department of Justice to show full transparency. And somehow that's a criticism of Donald J. Trump and not Barack Obama and George W. Bush. If you want to criticize the people who aren't showing full transparency, you ought to go after the administrations that went easy on Jeffrey Epstein, the administrations that concealed this case for 20 years, and the administrations that failed to show full transparency. Donald J. Trump, I'm telling you, he's got nothing to hide. His administration has got nothing to hide, and that's why he's been an advocate for full transparency in this case. He's going to keep on being an advocate for full transparency, but while we're focused on that case, Donald J. Trump is also worried about making sure these great workers get more take-home pay and better jobs, and that's the focus of the administration. Thank you.
Just an act of pure berserker mode savagery here. It's almost like JD watches the stream every morning. It's like what we've been saying from the very start. We've obviously been openly critical about some unbelievable own goals on all of this. I still, for the life of me, cannot figure out what the hell is with this undated, unsigned memo that was released in the dark of night as though nobody was going to pay attention to it. Like, who decided to do that? What an insane thing to do. But whatever. Those criticisms are on the record, and they've been lodged. If you look back into the actual archives of who did what, it was the George Bush administration that cut Jeffrey Epstein his entire sweetheart deal, that brought Jeffrey Epstein into the intel fold, that made him a protected FBI informant, that probably gave him the island that was just a CIA stakeout position, right? It's in international waters. Clandestine facing agency obviously is going to operate that. Jeffrey Epstein was given his free pass after being caught dead to rights as a underage sex pest predator in the state of Florida. He should have been serving a life sentence. Of course, he was given a fat get out of jail free deal by the George W. Bush Department of Justice, run by Alberto Gonzales and James Comey. Interesting that. And so JD Vance is 100% right to say, like, shut up. We have nothing to hide. We're going to actually be the first people to give you transparency on all this. And it's these bastards who actually ruined everything, who let Jeffrey Epstein free. Good. Way to call out George W. Bush, man. Way to go. JD Vance has broken his silence on Epstein and rocked an AP reporter while doing so. Vance doesn't put up with any of the BS. People are roundly saying this is a great answer. Nukes mainstream media reporter. Acid Trump is shielding. For 4 years, the Biden Justice Department, the media didn't even give a damn about Epstein files, never once asked about it in 20 years. Yeah. Scumbag pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Furious word comeback shielding Epstein. Yeah. We're not shielding anything, he told the reporter. I mean, listen, we are getting more than we've ever gotten from anyone on this. So I guess it's a low bar, but you know, we'll see where it goes. Just an absolute burnout there from JD Vance. JD Vance has obviously responded live to Elon Musk saying that Trump's on the Epstein list. Absolutely not. Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong with Jeffrey Epstein. That's absolutely BS. And now President Trump is saying he'll give you a list while granting limited immunity to Ghislaine Maxwell in order to speak to federal investigators and talk about at least 100 suspects, people of interest in the Epstein saga. So that's what's been going on inside the Trump administration. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a wild time. I guess we'll see. But that's the right messaging. That's the right messaging, and this is the right messaging from President Trump. Oh, really? You want a guy who's a president, who's a criminal with Jeffrey Epstein, who should be charged? Why don't you look at Bill Clinton? This is what Trump has been doing, and this is exactly, the JD answer is perfect. These other administrations are the ones who are the criminal cover-up operation for Jeffrey Epstein, and then look at Bill Clinton. Perfect change in trajectory for the Trump administration and for their commentary on this. The stop talking about it was not working and was never going to work. These are the real, please talk about it. We'll give you everything to talk about. And these are the real criminals. That's how you do it. Well done. Here's President Trump doing just that.
Or they should focus on the fact that Larry Summers from Harvard, that Bill Clinton, who you know very well, and lots of other friends, really close friends of Jeffrey Summers, should be spoken about. Because, you know, Jeffrey Epstein should be spoken about, and they should speak about them, because they don't talk about them, they talk about me. I have nothing to do with the guy. Some of his friends that are hedge fund guys, they're all over the place. You ought to be speaking about Bill Clinton, who went to the island 28 times. I never went to the island.
Do you maintain you did not write a letter for Jeffrey Epstein's birthday?
I don't even know what they're talking about. Now, somebody could have written a letter and used my name, but that's happened a lot. All you have to do is take a look at the dossier, the fake dossier. Everything's fake with that administration. Everything's fake with the Democrats. Take a look at what they just found about the dossier. Everything is fake. They're a bunch of sick people. You should focus on Clinton. You should focus on the president of Harvard, the former president of Harvard. You should focus on some of the hedge fund guys. I'll give you a list. These guys lived with Jeffrey Epstein. I sure as hell didn't. Thank you very much. You should be talking about, if you're going to talk about that, talk about Clinton, talk about the former president of Harvard, talk about all of his friends, talk about the hedge fund guys that were with him all the time. Don't talk about Trump. What you should be talking about is the fact that we have the greatest 6 months in the history of a presidency. I threw him out. And that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth. And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. and many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island, and I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to.